We discussed about the uh, fundamentals, like what is MCSA, what are all we cover in MCSA course, right? Like what is like different models we cover in Active Direct means like in MCSA course. And and yesterday we discussed about what is server, what is a client, and what are the different server operating systems we have, and then what is a work group and what is a domain. That all we discussed. Server is nothing but it's Windows operating server operating system, so it serves services to the clients. The services can be like web service, database service, or some other softwares you'll install on the server. So that specific services will be accessed by the client operating systems. So client is nothing but the employees, whoever is working in a company. So they will access the applications and database from the server operating system. So in 2019 we have three versions. One is essential, and the other one is standard, and the third one is data center. So essential, it is used for small organizations. If you have very few users like 20, 10, 20 or 25 users, maximum 25 users, we can go for essential, Windows essentials. Okay, so with this, like, you'll have only limited features actually, so you cannot use more than 25 users this server. Okay, so for small companies, like there will be like startup companies and all, like they'll not have the much budget to invest in infrastructure. So those such companies, startup companies and small scale companies, they can go for the essentials, and they can set up their network and the entire domain environment. Okay, using essentials edition. Whereas standard edition, it supports all the features, like unlimited users can access the server. There is no limitation like essential, like up to maximum 25 users we have in essential, right? It in standard we don't have any such limitation. So this can support unlimited users actually. And if you install Hyper-V role in this server, so you can configure two virtual machines actually. So that is a limitation they have given in standard edition. So that is the standard edition. Whereas data center edition, it supports unlimited Hyper-V virtual machines. That is only the difference between standard and data center. That data center, the main purpose is for Hyper-V, like it supports unlimited virtual machines. It will, if the server is having enough CPU and memory configuration, then you can run n number of virtual machines on the server. Okay, so the cost also it's more if compared to standard edition. The data center licensing cost is more actually compared to standard. Okay, that is the data center edition. So and then what is the work group and domain? Work group is nothing but it's a small company where we'll have a few users connected to the network. So we will not have any server installed, so each system will act as a its own device. Okay, there won't be any server installed in a work group model actually. Whereas domain model will have the centralized domain controller installed, so that domain controller will manage all the user accounts and computers and network devices in a network. So in domain model we'll have the centralized repository server, that is called as Active Directory domain controller. So that will manage the all computers systems in a network. Okay, so that is all about yesterday class. Okay, and today we will discuss about the Active Directory. Okay, So what is Active Directory? Its Active Directory is a directory service. It is a service that we will install in a Windows server actually. So in Windows server, we can install multiple services and roles like Active Directory service, DNS service, DSCP service, and like file service, print server, like different servers we can install in a Windows server. So if you install Active Directory in any of the server, so we will call that server as a domain controller. Okay. So the domain controller, what it does is it will manage the all user accounts and all the computer accounts and all the network devices in a company. Okay. It is centralized location where it will manage the all the uh, computers, users, and network devices in a network. Let's show you one diagram how it works. Okay. So this is one server. Just you have installed the Windows 2019 Standard Edition on this server. Okay. So so like if you install Windows 2019 any OS in a server, it is called as a only one server. We will call as one server. So if you install the Active Directory, if you install Active Directory domain services in this server, then we will call this server as a domain controller. Okay. So normally if you install any OS, we'll call as only server. Okay. If you install Active Directory domain services in this server, like it is just a role we will install actually, like I will show you in a lab. So if you install this Active Directory services in a server, then we will call the server as a domain controller. Okay. So this is the domain controller now. So normally if we have a ESXi, like normally you have a one hardware server, like you will have a HP server or you will have some Dell server. You have purchased the hardware and you have like installed in a some data center. Okay. If it is a plain server, so if there is nothing is there, what you will say, it is a hardware, like some HP hardware server we will call. So you will not name anything. If you install some ESXi OS on it, okay, by using ILO or something, then what you will call that server as a ESXi server, right? So in similar way, this is the like Windows server, like just you, you can like just you take a virtual machine and you will install the Windows operating system 2019 standard version. So that that mission we will call as a Windows server, just a plain server. And if you install the Active Directory domain services in this server, then we will call this as a domain controller. Okay. So you understand, right, what is the domain controller now? So what this domain controller will do is it will manage the user accounts. It will have the user accounts and server like computer accounts computer names, and network devices, everything. It is a central location. So you have some, you see, you were starting a new company called some technosoft.com. Like, then we will, like, you see, you want to set up a domain in this technosoft.com. What you will do, like, first you will install the Windows 2019 server, and we will install the Active Directory services on this server, and you will name that domain name as a technosoft.com. Okay, now this, if you install the Active Directory domain services and you will name that domain name as a technosoft.com, then this domain is a technosoft.com. So whoever is the new employees is joining into this technosoft.com, and who, like, if you are giving some laptops or desktops to the users in the company, so all these user accounts and computer accounts will be stored in this domain controller. Okay, so if the user, let me draw one more drawing. Okay, see, this is the domain controller. If any some RAM is joining into the our technosoft.com, so what system admin will do, he will create the user account here. Okay, in the domain controller he will log into this domain controller. Then he will create a RAM account. Okay, you will create a RAM account. Okay, and if there is a one more person joining, there is a new one more user is joining, called as Krishna. So he joining into the it's a new joinee. It's like the technosoft.com, it is some software company. So what they have some different projects. So what they do, they are recruiting the employees actually. So uh, whenever a new employee joins into the company, so the system admin will create a user accounts in this technosoft domain. Okay, so this is the user Krishna, new employee joined, and we have allocated system 1 to him. So whenever he logs into the his system, the Krishna log into his system, whenever he log into his system using his Krishna username and credentials. When he log into system, the Krishna username credentials will go to the domain controller. Okay, it will go to the domain controller. So domain controller, it will check either the Krishna username and credentials is right or not. Okay, it will check and it will authenticate if the Krishna, whatever the username and password he provided in his system, if that is right, then it will allow Krishna to log into this system actually. Then it will allow Krishna to log into this system. So this what domain controller will do, it will authenticate the users. If see, if the Krishna knows what is his username and password to log into his technosoft.com. If some, see, I'm a friend of Krishna, just I know his name, so I will try to log in and with give, I will give some different passwords. So will it take the and log into the system? It will not take, because domain controller will check either the Krishna username and password is right or wrong. So if the password is wrong, then only it will authenticate. Okay, like that. So now you understand, right? So why we will use domain controller is like, it will used for users authentication. So it will use for user authentication. And if the system, like if the Krishna want to access some, like no, database on the server in server 1. Okay, there is some SQL database or something installed in this server 1. Let's take example, we have some SQL database installed on this server 1. So what, like if you try to access this database, first of all what happens, the request will go to the domain controller. Okay, so the request will go to the domain controller, and it will see either domain controller will verify either the Krishna is having access to access the database in the server 1. If he is having access, then only he can able to access the databases in the server 1. So now you can now you can realize like what are all the, like what domain controller do in a network actually. Domain controller will used for users authentication. If Krishna login want to log into the system 1, the username and password will go to the domain controller, and domain controller will verify either the Krishna username is right or wrong. Then it will, if it is a right, then it will allow the system to log into the domain technosoft.com domain. Then he can join, he can log into the domain, and he can access his emails, he can check his like Outlook, and then if you want to access some like no servers or some share folders, everything he can do once he enter into the technosoft.com. And also it will authorize the access, like either if you want to access any resources like any server database, it will authorize either specific user is authorized to access the database, or is the user is authorized to access any websites. If you have some websites hosted in server 3, so if the Krishna is accessing some websites in this server 3, first what it will do, it will check domain, it will check with the domain controller either the Krishna is having access or not. Okay, so now like you understand, right, like what domain controller will do. The domain controller is the central location where all user accounts, computer accounts, and network devices are stored. It is central database. Okay, whenever user wants to log into the company's domain, the user name and password will be authenticated by the domain controller. So the Active Directory is used to authenticate the users and also authenticate the network shared uh, shared devices. Okay, that is the main concept of Active Directory. Here you can see Active Directory is a directory service that runs on Microsoft Windows Server. Okay, it is used for identity and access management. Identity is nothing but just I shown you, right? If the Krishna wants to join into the technosoft.com domain, First, the Krishna credentials will be authenticated by the domain controller. Domain controller, what is domain controller? Domain controller is nothing but where you have installed the Active Directory domain services. That is called as domain controller. So if the Krishna want to log into the technosoft.com, so first it will identify and authenticate the access. Domain controller will identify and authenticate the access to Krishna. That is the main domain controller use actually in a network. Okay. Yeah. Active Directory is a directory service that runs on a Microsoft Windows server. So the Active Directory domains directory service is used for identity and access management. Identity is nothing but either the specific user is logging into the our network or domain is belong to our network, whatever the username password is providing, is its right username and password or not, all these things will be verified by the domain controller. Okay. And ADDS stores organizations information about users, devices and network devices. So the Active Directory, like if you have a multiple users, some 100 users in a company, all these 100 users accounts will be created in the Active Directory. And whenever the user is logging into his laptop or his desktop, it will get authenticated with the domain controller. Okay. And it is a centralized hierarchical directory database. So how this Active Directory works actually in background is actually Active Directory service is the core component of the Active Directory. Okay. That enables user to authenticate and access resources on a network. So Active Directory is the here. See, you have installed the Active Directory in this Windows 2019 standard server. So that we will call as a domain controller. Okay. So this domain controller is the main central point, centralized location to log into the users and access the any resources. If the user want to access any server or any database, first it will be verified by the Active Directory domain controller, either the user is having access to that specific server or database or not. Once the domain controller is authenticated, then only the user can able to log into the server. Okay. So now you understand, right? What is mean by Active Directory domain controller. Initially we have installed the Windows 2019 standard edition. So this server we will call as just a server. We will not call as some file server, print server or domain controller. Just we have installed the Windows 2019 standard edition. So this we will call as a server. Once you install Active Directory services in this server, then we will call this server as a domain controller. Got it? So similarly, one if you install ESXi ISO image in any of the physical host, what you will call that server as ESXi host, right? Similar way, if you install the Active Directory domain services in any server, that server will call as a domain controller. Okay. What this domain controller will do? It will have all user accounts in a company. Like if any user, like any employee joining into the company, newly joined into the company, so we should create his account in Active Directory domain. Domain is nothing but the company name, like technosoft.com, ibm.com, wipro.com. This is all the domains actually. So if you are joining into the Wipro company, what they do, they will create your username and password to log into your laptop, right? Similar way, this is in the Wipro also they'll have the domain controllers. Okay. So if any new user is joining into the company, the system admin will create a user account in this domain controller, and he will give the username and password to the employee. So once he get the username and password, he can log into his system. System is nothing but it can be laptop or desktop or anything. So using like if he's a Krishna, is logging into the he joined into the Wipro.com. His ID is created in the domain controller. So once the ID is created, Krishna can log into his system with his username and password. So once the Krishna enters his username and password, what it does, like the system will send this username and password to the domain controller. The domain controller will check in its database either the Krishna provided username is right or wrong. If it is right, then it will authorize the user to log in into this system. If the Krishna gives something wrong password, it will not allow to log into the system. Why? The Active Directory database will verify either the username and password given by the Krishna is right or wrong. If it is wrong, it will not allow to log into his laptop. So Active Directory database will have all user accounts, passwords, system accounts, server names, everything in a network. Okay, it is a central location. So it is central location. It will have a database of all network devices, user accounts, and computer accounts in a network. Okay, so just 2 minutes, I'll come. So guys, you understand, right? Now its Active Directory is a main concept in MCSA. Okay, so you should understand what is Active Directory and how it works. So then it is very easy to go with the next topics actually. So that is why I'm telling you multiple times how it works and what is Active Directory. So as I told you, like Active Directory domain services is the main role for the Active Directory. So if you install the Active Directory domain services in any of the server, we'll call the server as a domain controller. Okay, so the domain controller will have all user accounts, computer accounts, server accounts, and network devices in a network. Okay, the Active Directory is used to authenticate and authorize the user's access. Authenticate means like when the user is logging into his system, that user credentials will be authenticated by the domain controller. If you join into any company, so they'll give you username and password once you join into the company, and they will allocate one laptop to you. Okay, so once you log into your laptop, that credentials will be sent to the domain controller through the network. Either that username, whatever the user provided credentials are right or wrong, that will be verified by the domain controller. Once the domain controller is authorized, and then user can able to log into his system. Okay, this is the Active Directory. So Active Directory is the directory service that runs on a Microsoft Windows server. Okay, it is used for identity and access management. Active Directory stores and organizes information about people, devices, services connected to a network. Okay, Active Directory is a central hierarchical directory service database. So it is a central location where it will have all user accounts, computer accounts, network devices, everything in a network. Okay. What is the domain? Domain is nothing but it is a domain called as some organization. Okay, you can you can take as an organization. You can take some small bank like Axis Bank. You take it is called as Axis Bank. We can, if you are Axis Bank employee, so if you can call, if you are Axis Bank employee and working as system admin, then Axis Bank is a domain for you. Okay, in the Axis Bank domain, you'll have a multiple Axis Bank domain users are like some cashier, some manager, some different salesmen. All these users are called as a domain users, we will call. Okay. So domain, a group of objects such as users, groups, or devices that share the same Active Directory database makes up a domain. So a group of users. See, you have a Krishna here. Okay. You have Ram and Rajesh. So we have a multiple users, company employees. Okay. All these employees user accounts will be created in the Active Directory domain. And Krishna is using the system 1, and Ram is using some system 2, and Rajesh is using system 3, some system 3. All these users, systems, and this domain controller, all combination of all these items we will call as a domain. Okay. So this is one domain. Domain is nothing but it is a group of objects such as users or group of devices that share the same Active Directory database. Okay, it's a group of objects. Object is nothing but user, computer, or server. These are all the objects we will call in a network. The group of objects, objects in the sense the users and computers and servers. All these objects that will share the same Active Directory database. Technosoft.com Active Directory database, they will share it. So this combination of all these items we will call as a domain. Okay. What is the domain? You understand, right? It's a group of objects such as users or groups or devices that share the same Active Directory database makes up a domain. Okay. We'll call, like in a company, if you take any company, in company like see, we have a SVIT training institute, right? In this training institute, we have a students, like multiple students are there. Okay. So each student will have their user accounts created in SVIT, and we have some ESXi hosts, and we have a few computers and few laptops in that SVIT institute. Combination of all these student user accounts and the computers and servers, like combination of all these like users and computers and servers, all these objects, it will use the same Active Directory. So all these devices we will call as a domain. Okay, it's SVIT domain. Inside this domain we will have the SVIT students are there, and SVIT computers are there, and SVIT servers are there. Okay, a group of objects such as users or groups or devices that share the same AD database. So all these users, computers, and devices are using the same SVIT domain controller database. So that we will call as a domain. Okay. and what is organization unit. So within SVIT domain, we create organization units to organize the objects within a domain. Okay. So see, if you have a, you take one HDFC or HDFC Bank. Okay. In HDFC Bank, they'll have different branches. Okay, Indiranagar branch or some MG Road branch, something like that. So in Indiranagar branch, we can create Indiranagar branch as a one OU in Active Directory. Okay, OU is nothing but organization unit to manage the Indiranagar employees, all employees. We will create a one kind of container OU in Active Directory. Okay, that is called as organization unit in Active Directory. So I'll show you this lab. Then you can understand this very well. What is the OU and what is the domain? Okay, and Active Directory tree. So multiple domains grouped together in a logical hierarchy makes up a tree actually. So tree is nothing but, so you have a svit.com Bangalore location. This is one institute, and you have a we have started some new SVIT in some Chennai, that is called as chennai.svit.com. That is a child this is the parent, and that is a child, like chennai.svit.com is the child domain, and svit.com is the parent domain. So combination of this child and domain we will call as a tree in a Active Directory. Okay. svit.com, this is the one domain. Okay. And you have this SVIT is the one domain. You have a one more branch office created. It is in some jnagar.svit.com. So svit.com, this is the root main parent domain. So this is the child domain, jnagar.svit.com. So combination of these two, parent and child, this is called as, we'll call this as a tree actually. Tree, like normally if you take tree is nothing but your grandfather is there, and your father is there, and you are the child of your father. So what is a tree? Like your grandfather and then your father, this is one tree, right? Your family tree. Like similar way, in the domain we will call as, this is the domain tree. Okay. SVIT is the main parent domain, and in below that we have the jnagar.com is the child domain. This is the, like SVIT, it started initially, that is the parent domain, and later after some years or some days they have started a new branch called a jnagar.svit.com. This is a child. Okay. Combination of this parent and child we will call as a tree actually. Okay. Okay, let me see if I can connect to the lab, and then I can show you how to, what is the Active Directory, how to we install Active Directory, and where do we have the Active Directory database, all the thing. Just give me a minute. Mm, So you understand, right, what is Active Directory and what is the domain, and what is the tree, why do we need Active Directory in a network. So I will share this document after like no after completing the this module 2. So then you can go to this document. I think you can, if you want to learn, uh, I have created a document for each module. Okay, so this is a document I have created. There are few more topics in this document. Okay, after completing this, I will share this document to you guys, so you can do even the lab steps also. I have added in this document, so you can do the lab also using this document. So uh, after completing this module 1 we have completed already, it's completely theory. So I will share you that module 1. The module 2 I will share with you guys after completing this complete module 2. And let me try if I can connect to the lab, and we can start this Active Directory installation, and how to set up the Active Directory and what is domain, everything. Once you see that lab, you will understand actually clearly. I think the power is not there in lab, it seems today. Okay, so let me, I will try to install some VMware workstation, and I will try to set up uh, some virtual machine in my laptop itself. Okay, and we'll see, like I can show you tomorrow the lab. Okay. So that is the today class, guys. Like Active Directory, it's a Active Directory is a directory service actually that we will install in Windows Server. So if you install Active Directory in any of the server, that we will call as a domain controller. Okay, same like if you install ESXi host in any physical server, you will call that server as a host, ESXi host, right? In Windows terminology, if you install any Active Directory domain services in any of the server, that we will call as a domain controller. So what this domain controller will do, it will maintain the all companies user accounts, computer accounts, and servers and network devices in a company environment, domain environment. So if you have a, if the company allocated any laptop to you, that laptop account is created in the Active Directory domain controller. And if you are joining into the company, your user account will be created into the Active Directory domain controller. It is a central location, central database that will have all user accounts, computer accounts in a network. So if the once the user account is created in Active Directory, if the user want to log into his laptop, that user account and password whatever he's entering, that will go to the domain controller. So the domain controller, what it does, it will authenticate the users. Whatever the user has provided username and password, it will verify, it will authenticate in its database whatever the user has given his username and password in his laptop, that will go to the domain controller through the network. Okay, so that domain controller will verify either that username and password given by the user is right or wrong. If it is wrong, then it will deny the user to log into his laptop. What you will get, you will get a message like the username and password you have provided is wrong. That is the message you will receive. If you have given the right username and password, the Active Directory domain controller will authenticate and it will allow the access to the user to log into the his system. Okay, and the protocol that is used to authenticate the users in network is called as Kerberos. So Kerberos is the protocol that will carry the username and password to the domain controller and verify either the user, once the Active Directory domain controller verifies the username and password is right, then Kerberos again it will allow the user to log into his system. So Kerberos is the authentication protocol. It is used to authenticate the users in a network to the domain controller. Okay. So and also if the user want to access any services, like in the server one we have some services like database or anything installed. If the user want to access this some database in the server one, so first it will verify by the Active Directory domain controller either the user is having rights to access this database. If he is having rights, then only he can able to access this database. If he is not having rights, then it will not allow the user to log into the database. So the Active Directory domain controller is a main central database that is used to authenticate the users and also authorize the users to access the resources. Either the user is authorized to access the resources like is the database or any other files or anything in the server, either he is authorized to access that files, that will be authenticated by the domain controller in a domain. Okay, so this is about the Active Directory domain, guys. It's a good topic. Just I will share this one as well. So tomorrow directory and all this stuff and how to create user accounts and how to create organization in it. Everything I will show you tomorrow lab. Okay. Okay, guys. Any doubts about Active Directory? You can bring up now. Tomorrow we'll have the class at 10:30 same time because today I was having some other work, so logged a little late. If anyone have any doubts, just you can bring up now. I'll give 2 minutes time.
Yeah, let's say we have joined, one of the organization. How do we understand, like, which is a domain controller and, all those things, all those stuff by seeing
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Like actually, see, domain controllers you can easily find out after installing the Active Directory in domain controller. If you open the dsa.msc, that is used to open the Active Directory services in a domain controller. So once you open the Active Directory services, there you will have the all installed domain controller in a that specific domain. If you take svit domain, if you log into domain controller and type the uh, command dsa.msc, this will open the Active Directory services in a server, services in a domain controller. In that Active Directory services window, you will have the option called domain controllers. Okay, there you will have all installed domain controllers in a that specific domain. Also, we have a command called netdom query fsmo. This is the command that you can run in the domain controller. So using this command, it will list all the installed domain controllers in that organization. Okay, netdom query fsmo. Okay,
So we can execute these commands from a gem server also, right?
no, in gem server it will not show you. You should log into the domain controller to find the list of domain controllers available in your company. You should run this command in domain controller, not in a gem server.
But we don't know, right? But I mean, as we go to the organization as a fresher, I mean, new to this, new to that organization, we don't know which is the domain control and all, right?
Yeah, domain
In that
controller
case,
I
I'm
told you, right?
asking.
You can open the dsa.msc. Okay, in the domain, like they will provide you the domain controller list actually. If you join into any company, okay, so they will give you what is your domain at least. See, if you are employed to svit.com, okay, you know at least your svit.com is it's your domain, okay. But in gem server you will have a dsa.msc can be accessible. Dsa.msc Active Directory users and computers you can access from the gem server. They might have installed some tools to access dsa.msc in gem server. So once you
Okay.
access this dsa.msc, in that dsa.msc console, you will have one option called as domain controllers. In that, you can find this installed domain controllers in your company. And I will show you the lab tomorrow. You can understand very well. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, because like by if I tell you the theoretically, I think you may not understand. But if if I show you practically,